Students, again I'm back with my video, and in this video I'm going to continue with my second part, and I'm going to give you the explanation of the chapter We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together, written by Gordon Cook and Ellen East. So now, without wasting time, let's begin with the explanation. Now students, as we have already discussed in our part 1 about the problems they are facing during their voyage journey. So, the hand pump was blocked as rubbish was floating around the cabins had entered it. The electric pump short circuited as the water level rose. The narrator found two hand pumps had been removed along with the rope, zip, a small boat, and the main anchor. He found another electric pump under the chart room. He connected it to an outpipe and it started working. The water level was under control by the morning of January 3rd, so all of them took 2 hours rest in rotation. But there still was a leak somewhere below the waterline, and upon checking, the boat rib structure was badly broken down till the base of the ship, and the whole section of the starboard was held together with a few cupboards of water. After that, the ship's condition was so bad that it would not make it till Australia. The narrator checked the charts and calculated that there were two small islands a few kilometers to the east. One of them was Isle Amsterdam, which was a French scientist's base, and their only hope was to search and reach that island. But only if the wind and the seas do not cause further damage. Else, their chances were so dim. The wave had destroyed the ship's auxiliary engine. After 36 hours of continuous pumping of January 4th, the water was only a few centimeters left to be pumped out. But they still had to pump out the water which was coming in. They could not set sail on the main mast. They hoisted the storm zip and sailed towards the two small islands. They had their first meal in 2 days, some corned beef and cracker biscuits found by Mary. The rest period was short-lived as black clouds built up around 4 p.m. The wind was now 40 knots and sea was getting higher. The weather got worse, and by the early morning of January 5th, the situation was bad. Then the narrators went to comfort his children. His son asked him whether they were going to die. He tried to assure him that they would make it. His son replied that they were not afraid to die till they were all together. And finally, they filled the narrator with the determination to fight back. He made efforts to protect the weakened starboard side. He used an improvised sea anchor made by heavy nylon rope and two 22-liter plastic barrels of kerosene. That same evening, the narrator and his wife sat holding hands, and they believed that their end was near. The ship made it through the storm, and by the morning of January 6th, the narrator tried to get reading on the sextant. He worked with wind speed, drifted, and current and calculated their position. They were in 150,000 kilometers area of ocean, looking for a 65-kilometer wide island. While the narrator was still thinking, his daughter Sue joined him and she was in pain. The left side of her head was swollen and her blackened eyes had narrowed down the slits. She gave him a card which she had made herself. On the front of the card was a cartoon image and her parents with words written about them being funny people and how they made her laugh. On the inside the card, she told them how she loved them both and she thanked them. She made the narrators realize that they had to make it to the island. After that, the narrator rechecked the calculation. They lost their main compass and were using the spare one, which was not corrected for magnetic variation. He estimated the influence of the westerly currents which flows through the Indian Ocean. Around 2 p.m., he went on deck and asked Larry to steer the wheel to 185 degree, and he felt if they were lucky, they would see the island by 5 p.m. Then he went below and slept. He woke up around 6 p.m. and it was dark outside. He thought that they might have missed the island and he started worrying about how they would tackle the westerly wind more as the ship wasn't capable to sail more. His son came and asked him for a hug and his daughter followed. He asked that why was he getting a hug? His son replied that he was the best daddy in the world and also called him the best captain. The narrator replied that he was afraid. Sue told him that they had found the island, which was as big as a battleship. The narrator rushed to the deck and gave a sigh of relief. They could see the complete outline of the Amsterdam. There was a bleak piece of volcanic rock in front of them. It had a little vegetation and it was the most beautiful island in the world. They moored the ship at some distance from the shore and the next morning 28 inhabitants of the Amsterdam island helped them to move on the shore of the island. As he left the island again on his feet, he thought and his crewmen and his wife. He also thought of his 7 years old daughter who was injured badly. She had to go through 6 minor operations to remove the blood clot in her head. His son, who never gave up and was not afraid to die. So now students, let's begin with the summary of the chapter. The journey was planned for 3 years and a distance of 105,000 kilometers. Route plan, start point England via South Africa through Indian Ocean, then to Australia, the Americas and finally back in England. The boat Waywalker was a 23-meter long, 30-ton wooden hulled beauty. Sailors, the narrator, his wife Mary, son Jonathan was 6 years and daughter Suzanne 7 years, Larry Vigil and Herb Sigler. July 1976, voyage begins. Voyage begins from Plymouth, England. Good weather and cheerful days are there when they started with the journey. And they started from England via west coast of Africa. Larry Vigil and American Herb Siglers, who was from Suez, are their crew members. In the Indian Ocean, December 25th, Voyagers reaches 3,500 km east of Cape Town. The weather was still atrocious, yet they had a wonderful holiday, complete with a Christmas tree. Now the New Year's Day saw no improvement in the weather. Dawn Journey 2nd 1977. Gigantic waves in the morning. Sailing with only a small storm zip and were still making 8 knots. Ship sets means rises to the top of each waves. The waves are so gigantic and endless enormous seas rolling towards the ship. The screaming of the wind and spray painful to ear. Fighting the sea. The storm zip were dropped down in the water. A heavy mooring rope in a loop across the stern lashed, double lashed everything, went through life raft drill, attached lifeliness, donned out oilskin and life jackets. At 6 p.m. on January 2nd, wave higher than the ship chased the ship and the waves hit the back of the ship. The waves breaks and starboard's right side was completely smashed. The ship was about to capsize. Capsize means about to sink. Mary, the narrator's wife, took the steering wheel. Larry and her pumped the water from the deck. An immediate action required. Water level rose threateningly. Pumps stopped functioning. Electric pumps used. And finally, all radio signals blocked. No communication with base. Sue, his daughter's eyes was completely bumped against. On January 3rd, survived 48 hours, auxiliary engine failed. After that, on 4th January, water level almost dipped and still unable to hoist sail on the mast for fear of the ship's possible wreckage, hoisted the storm zip, headed to the direction of live Amsterdam, not every certain about it, are the meal after 48 hours. And what they had in their meal? It's a corned beef and some pieces of biscuit. On 5th, weather went on deteriorating, became worse, and Jonathan says, Daddy, if we are all dying, we are not afraid to die. More water flowed in, and Sue made a card with a family in the ship as a caricature. Caricature means the cartoon characters. So students, this is the final video of the chapter We Are Not Afraid to Die. Hope you like the video. So thanks for watching.